Canada being the nation that is helping to define and shape a new world order.
I think that the floor crossers didn't do so out of some deep political principle. They did so because they wanted a shortcut into government. And watching Matt Genevieve go on this junket with the Prime Minister, those are things that the sitting party in government can offer a potential floor crosser to entice them over.
And to top that off, Annie, I'm hearing from our colleagues that the hush has not died, that there could be even more floor crossers.
There was a lot of talk about floor crossing because it has propelled the Liberals to this majority position. Without these 5 floor crossers, the Liberals would not be at the 174 that they're at now. And there was also a lot of discussion and chit-chat about whether there were more MPs. We were hearing that there were, at least 5 or 6 people that the Liberals were chatting with to try to get some MPs to cross the floor.
Your support is free, but priceless. Subscribe to Canada Scope. Look, if you're a Conservative voter in Canada, it can feel like your vote gets pushed to the side the second the election is over. And I'm not saying that just to sound dramatic. I'm saying it because a lot of Canadians are looking at what happened and asking a very serious question. Did people really get the government they voted for? Because when a party does not clearly win full control, but then power gets stitched together afterward through political agreements, side deals, and sudden changes in support, people start wondering what their vote actually meant. That does not mean democracy has disappeared. But it does raise a fair concern. If voters choose one direction and then politicians shift positions after the fact, citizens have every right to ask what kind of system they are living under. So let me ask you this. If you vote for one person, one platform, and one promise, but later that person or party supports something completely different.
Yes, some are still in denial. Rather than starting on this journey, they're waiting for the past to return. No. But hope is not a plan and nostalgia is not a strategy. We can either shape our future with AI or let it control our destiny. The foundations of the international order, the order which Canada helped build and from which we have benefited for so long, that order is crumbling.
What did your vote really accomplish? That is the part that has people upset. Not because they hate democracy, but because they expected their vote to mean something clear. Mark Carney did not walk into power with a massive direct mandate from every corner of the country. What critics are saying is that the final shape of power was built after the election, not fully decided on election night. And whether you support him or not, that difference matters. Winning public trust is one thing. Building political power behind closed doors is another. And this is where the conversation gets spicy. People are not just mad because their preferred party lost. People are mad because they feel like the rules are being bent in ways regular Canadians cannot control. One day, a politician is elected under one set of expectations. The next day, they are standing beside people their voters may never have supported. That is not a small issue. That is a trust issue. This is not just about Liberals, Conservatives, or any single leader. This is about whether voters still feel represented after the ballots are counted.
The world has changed much since that last visit. And I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney is touting a new strategic partnership with China in talks with Xi Jinping in Beijing as part of what he has said is a new world order, in part due to the fallout from Trump tariffs.
I have been told of university students already being required to read my husband's now quite famous Davos speech, of intergenerational dinner table conversations being sparked by its contents, of new possibilities opening up in its wake, of Canada being the nation that is helping to define and shape a new world order.
Because in a healthy democracy, people should not feel like the election is only the first step. And the real decisions happen later in rooms they will never see. And while all of this is happening, another serious problem is building in the background. Young Canadians are looking around and asking themselves if they even have a future here. Skilled workers, educated graduates, business-minded people, and families who want a better life are looking toward the United States and other places. They are not leaving because they hate Canada. Many are leaving because they feel priced out, boxed in, and ignored. Housing is brutal. Groceries are expensive, taxes feel heavy, wages do not always keep up, and the dream that used to feel possible in Canada now feels out of reach for a lot of people. That is the real scandal nobody wants to deal with. When people start leaving, not because they want to, but because they feel they have no choice, that is a warning sign. And instead of asking, why are Canadians leaving, some political circles have discussed ideas that sound more like punishment than solutions. One controversial proposal raised at a Liberal convention talked about an exit tax on certain educated Canadians who leave the country. Some reports and critics described it as potentially reaching very high amounts, even up to hundreds of thousands of dollars in extreme cases. Now think about how that sounds to regular people. You study, you work hard, you build your skills, and then if you decide Canada is no longer giving you a fair shot, the response is not, how do we fix the country? The response sounds more like, how do we make leaving harder?
Do you agree with the assessment around the election?
Yes, Mr. Carney does not want an election, but also he's got some key people talking to opposition parties. I'm told up to 10 MPs are still in discussion with Liberal delegates from Mr. Carney's office. So there's still discussion going on. So they're still hoping to get more of opposition MPs from the Conservative Party. But it's still a possibility that more may cross the floor to join the Liberal cause.
Now that you secured a parliamentary majority, do you have the mandate you need to govern, or will you call in an election in response to those who suggest the majority is not legitimate? So not considering calling an election?
Not considering calling an election. Absolutely. I think very clearly Canadians want government to govern.
That is not how you rebuild trust. That is how you make people feel trapped. A strong country does not need to scare people into staying. A strong country gives people reasons to stay. Affordable homes, fair wages, real opportunities, honest leadership. A system where your vote matters after election day, not just during campaign season. And while everyday Canadians are losing confidence, there are also concerns about how the world sees Canada. When international investors, institutions, or financial players start reducing their exposure or confidence, that sends a message. It tells people that Canada may not look as stable, strong, or attractive as it once did. And when citizens are leaving, money is leaving and confidence is dropping. The government should be focused on repair, not control. That is why this whole situation feels bigger than normal politics. It feels like the country is standing at a crossroads. One path leads back to accountability, transparency, and respect for voters. The other path leads to more deals, more control, more pressure, and more people quietly packing their bags. And then you hear language from powerful circles about Canada's role in a new world order or global leadership. And people naturally start raising eyebrows, because while regular Canadians are worrying about rent, food, jobs, taxes, and whether their vote matters,
Carney, to put it bluntly, is not a man like Justin Trudeau, a second-rater, under the mere influence of the World Economic Forum, that Malthusian, fear-mongering cabal of authoritarian elitists, drunk on the fumes of their own self-righteous delusions. He is, by contrast, a veritable leader of that movement, an organizer par excellence of ESG, stakeholder capitalism, diversity, equity, and inclusiveness, and degrowth. Out with the old, the Liberals claim, and in with the new. But the new will be everything Trudeau so terribly was, but a lot more efficiently, and with much more sophisticated rationalization.
Offers me a job, 300 grand a year, right? All I have to do is show up at the border, apply for a TN visa, right? And I get this 3-year, like no questions asked, it costs $30. And now I move to Microsoft. We as Canadians have subsidized my education to the tune of, you pick the number, $500,000, right? 500,000, and if it's a graduate student, go, right? 30,000 TN go to the US every year. You want to save yourself $5 to $10 billion? Shut the TN program. And then keep them in, or make them pay their $500,000 so that if they leave, I'm okay with that. You want to go to the US? Give me back my money.
The people at the top sometimes sound like they are focused on some bigger international project. Maybe they see it differently. Maybe they think they are helping. But to many Canadians watching from the outside, it sounds disconnected from real life, and that is the heart of the problem. People do not want fancy speeches. They want honesty. They want leaders who remember who pays the bills in this country. They want elected officials who do not treat voters like background noise after the election is over. So no, this is not about spreading hate or attacking anyone personally. This is about asking fair questions in a country where people are supposed to be allowed to ask questions. If politicians can change direction after being elected, if power can be built after the vote, if young Canadians are leaving, if controversial tax ideas are being floated, and if confidence keeps slipping, then Canadians deserve real answers. Because democracy is not just a word politicians use when it benefits them. Democracy means the people matter before, during, and after Election Day. So ask yourself this: are Canadians still choosing their future, or are they just being asked to approve decisions that were already made somewhere else? Subscribe Canadascope